out a couple of pieces today on Tim James. Now, of course, it's AL.com, so they're probably thinking they're going to hurt Tim James and his credibility, but when I look at them, it just helps him. Makes him look better. So, AL.com just helping him out, apparently. Speaking of gubernatorial candidate Tim James, he's joining me on the phone right now. Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Michael, good morning. It's been a while.
Yes. I'm glad to get you on once again. Now, I always ask candidates, first question is, how's campaign going?
Well, hear me? I'm getting the bleed back. Is that okay? Can you hear me okay?
You sound good on this end.
Okay. Well, it's going well. Thank you for asking. It looks like, as you said in the intro, AL.com is attacking on all fronts. That ought to tell you how we're doing.
Yeah, well, that is true. So one article
when the Marxists when the Marxists are attacking with both barrels, that's good for me and for in a Republican primary in Alabama.
Yeah, I agree with that. So they put out a story about a church that you went to and you visited, and the church apparently apologized for your comments, saying didn't really reflect their values. Now, what did you say that they found that was just so offensive?
Well, it's a little bit of a misnomer. What happened was I went up. I was invited to speak to the church, and I went up and I spoke, and I basically said everything that I've said 1,000 times. And evidently, we are on television talking about the Magic City Acceptance Academy, and it's a pretty hot issue out there. And they were live streaming my speech or my sermon or whatever you want to call it, and they were bombarded by the LGBTQ community, and I think it just caught them off guard. They're wonderful people. I think they probably overreacted a little bit. But let me tell you what I was talking about. I was talking about being in Richmond, Virginia, and on a street, and I noticed the people in the area were, they were different. They were people that were poor. They were, it was outcast in many ways. And I was making the point that what I was looking at was very similar to Azusa Street, which is the famous Azusa Street Revival in the early 1900s, where revival began in a rough neighborhood where people were not like me. And that's what I was saying. So this was a great word of encouragement for people who were not like me. And of course, what happened was the activists, the LGBTQ activists attacked these nice people in the church, and I think they overreacted. And I absolutely hold no animosity to them. I understand the arena, but that's what that dust up was about. And so AL.com, of course, has taken it, and they're pushing this out that I'm attacking people that wear tattoos. The conversation, the point I was making was it is those people that are going to be a part of this great awakening and revival in America.
No, that's very interesting because you're right. The way AL.com put it is you said there were tattoos from head to toe. Some girl came walking by.
I was explaining what I was watching on the street, and there was one particular woman who was about 6'4", and I was colorfully explaining what I was looking at. She had tattoos all over her body, had a mohawk, and it was the point I was making is this is where revival starts, not from people who necessarily look like me and wear a suit to work but this is where it would come from, just like Azusa Street. And instead of attacking them, that was just part of the conversation and the explanation. And if you listen at the entire speech or the entire sermon, it's very clear that what was going on. And they picked that one little thing out about the tattoo and the woman, and they are using that to attack me. When what I was really saying that's where revival is going to begin, just like in Azusa Street. It's going to begin with people who look like that and who may not look like me as a very typical Republican in Alabama. And it could happen that's what it was. So we haven't paid a lot of attention to it. I didn't know they were still running with it. I'm glad they are, because I'd love to talk about this issue for days.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I looked at the initial comments, I thought, okay, these are pretty harmless. And then when you actually explain what you meant in context, it's completely different than what they were implying. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. I'm speaking with gubernatorial candidate Tim James. I also see that you have been pushing school choice a lot. I knew this before, but this continues to be a big issue for you.
It is, because that's we're bottom of the barrel, K through 12. So over the last dozen years, as you know as well as I, we were in the 30s in reading, and in the 20s, high 20s or so in math, around a dozen years ago. And now we're bottom of the barrel. So, the attacks are already coming from the education establishment. And what they're saying is, with the school choice thing, James is going to destroy public education. I've heard it now. That's coming at us. And, Michael, I'm going, wait a minute. I'm not going to destroy it. It's already been destroyed. So the same guys that are saying that we're going to destroy it are the guys that have been in charge, and it is in destruction right now because we're at the bottom of the barrel. And what we intend to do is to fix it, what they have destroyed. And it's going to be tough, but school choice is a part of that, because it gives moms and dads, and often poor families who don't have the options of private schools and all this stuff, it gives them an option to pull their child out of an underperforming school and put them in another public school that has openings, or a private school that will accept vouchers, or a charter school, or even homeschool. It gives the folks that really need a way out. And so they're right about one thing when they say James is after public education. I'm after it, all right. I intend to disrupt it and deconstruct it in a good way to its foundation and build it new from the ground up and turn this thing around. And I'm not talking about over a decade. I'm talking about over a few years.
And it sounds like you believe the current governor hasn't done a really good job on this.
Well, she's been either lieutenant governor or governor for the last dozen years. And during her tenure in the top two executive positions in the state, we've gone, as I said, from the 30s in reading and the 20s in math to dead last. Now, 6 years as governor. So, that's where the buck stops. And talk's cheap. Facts are facts. Numbers are numbers. Rankings are rankings. And if you've been driving the ship over these many years, or either driving it or been a co-pilot, and that's very clear as to where we are. And either we make a change, Michael, or we just continue in this destructive mode educationally. Prison numbers are going to go up. We have other issues. We have a mental health crisis in Alabama that we've never seen before, because of how we've handled the mental health issues over the last dozen years. So you just take your pick on where we are: education, mental health, and all this governor cares about is marijuana. She signed the marijuana bill. She calls it medical marijuana. It's not. It's nothing but a syndicated drug cartel to peddle dope on the street. And she said her biggest regret is she didn't get her 10 casinos. So all they care about is marijuana and gambling, while our mental health situation is in crisis and our education system is at the bottom of the barrel.
Tim James, any final thoughts for the listeners before I let you go?
Michael, thank you for having me on the show. My message to your listeners is I need your vote. We are less than 2 weeks out from yesterday. I need you to come to the polls on the 24th of May. Help me get elected governor of Alabama, and I can promise you that I'm not playing games. I'm not kidding around. We're going to turn this state around. We're going to get our education system back where it ought to be, and we're going to stand on the principle. We're not going to allow vaccine mandates, and I'm sure as heck will not allow any school to force children to wear a mask against their parents' wishes. That I can promise. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No problem. Tim James running for governor. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again in the future.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so I'm curious what your take is on the text line. Now, the last time I asked who you're supporting for governor, my text line blew up with people supporting Lou Burdett. Now, I had just had Lou Burdett on the show, so maybe that's part of the reason, but now I just had Tim James. So do you like what you hear from him? Will you support him? Who are you supporting in this governor's race? I always like to get these little takes on the text line, a little, on-the-spot polls. 925-494-9866, 925-494-WVNN. We got the local news update coming up next as well here on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
For decades, Rolling Stone has set the bar for entertainment publications. Today, Rolling Stone Music Now takes over in podcast form. The late Taylor Hawkins on Stage Fright.
I have major stage fright. Been on the road 28 years, literally. I had a year and a half off of this feeling I have today, which is, that's how I feel every time.
It's easy to make light of that, but that's a big part of Eddie Van Halen was abusing substances because...
Oh, because he was scared, dude.
Rolling Stone Music Now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.